The small town of Crestwood lay nestled within the jagged embrace of the Blackthorn Mountains, a locale defined by both its striking beauty and haunting mysteries. Framed by towering pines and chasms that whispered secrets to those brave enough to listen, the mountains were well known for their breathtaking views during the day but were shrouded in an unsettling darkness at night. For decades, the residents of Crestwood had been plagued by inexplicable disappearances. Every few years, a person would vanish into thin air, swallowed whole by the wild terrain. Laura Hayes, a sharp and determined investigative journalist, had returned to her hometown after years on the city beat, drawn back by the chilling stories echoing through the bars and cafes. The disappearances were more than just local folklore, they represented a festering wound that the townsfolk had learned to live around, but Laura could not ignore the nagging questions. When another beloved community member vanished, Laura decided it was time to dive deeper. Armed with her notebook and a camera, she set out into the mountains, driven by a mixture of professional duty and personal vendetta against her own past. As a child, she had watched her friend, Tommy, disappear on one of these treks, his laughter fading into the distance as darkness fell. She was determined to uncover the truth this time, whatever it might be. As she explored the forest trails, Laura uncovered a chilling pattern. Several of the missing individuals had last been seen near a decrepit cabin far from the usual paths. Rumor had it that the cabin belonged to a reclusive family known as the Morgans, whose relatives had lived in the area for generations. Whispers of inbreeding and dark rituals surrounded them, and as Laura approached the cabin, she felt a sense of foreboding settle over her. Inside, Laura found remnants of lives long forgotten amidst the dust and decay. Old photographs lined the walls, depicting people with twisted smiles and hollowed eyes. But what unsettled her most was a series of journals scattered across the floor. They chronicled the Morgans' history, fear and paranoia transforming into something sinister. Descriptions of rituals hinted at acts of violence and horror, revealing a horrifying bond between the mountain's inhabitants and the swift disappearance of others over the generations. As Laura pieced together the chilling account, she realized that those who disappeared were never truly lost. They had become part of something grotesquely cyclical, a form of twisted survival that involved dark offerings to the mountains in exchange for protection from harm. Fearful yet compelled, she raced back to town, desperate to warn the residents. But before she could gather allies and make her case, she became aware of shadows lurking among familiar faces. The townspeople had known about the Morgans' terrible legacy all along but lived in denial to maintain the illusion of safety. As Laura confronted the town's leaders, she discovered a deep-seated fear that tied them more closely to the Morgans than anyone wanted to admit. In a climactic confrontation atop the mountains, the truth unfurled around her like tendrils of smoke. The people of Crestwood had been complicit in a horrific pact with the very beings they feared. As daylight broke through the clouds, illuminating the peaks, Laura made her choice to expose the dark secret, risking everything to free the town from its insidious ties. In the days following her revelation, the town began to change. For the first time in years, the whispers of the mountain sounded like echoes of freedom rather than doomed fates. Laura stood at the edge of a new beginning, ready to face whatever shadows lingered behind her, knowing she had finally brought their mystery into the light.